Okay, so let's talk about Bones and all. Luca Guadagnino has returned, and this time he is back with Timothy, and a very big contrast in comparison to Call Me by Your Name with a warm Italian summer. Bones and all comes with a very harsh, cold take at the USA. So let's talk about this movie that is a road trip movie, a romance movie, a horror movie, a coming of age movie, everything movie. Genre bending is the best way we can say this, and I think it does a great job with it. So before we do get further head into it, make sure you are subscribing down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell. My fingers are probably pointing at the wrong directions. New setup, everything. This is my room, and I was gonna make sure to make it look better in the back, but what can I do? This is the room that it is, and I can't do much right now. So let's talk about this movie, Bones and All, which, like I said, is much more grimier and cold compared to the Call Me by Your Name setting we were in. But at its core, it is still a movie about love. Maybe aren't the best companion for one another, but sort of is at that moment in itself the right time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but let's get right into this. So you basically follow Marin, a young cannibal who realizes that they are a cannibal very early on in their childhood, and their father and them are on the run always because anytime an incident happens where there's a cannibal involved, Marin is the one involved, whether it's an incident with a babysitter or somebody they know or one of Marin's friends or somebody in her school. There's always an incident that happens that has them on the run. One night, however, Marin does decide to go to a sleepover. Of course, her father had forbid her already from doing things like this, interacting with people, because she sort of has this fondness that grows in her towards people, and that sort of makes her want to consume them. This is something that is explained more in the book, and we'll probably do a video talking about the differences in the book and all of that, but I'm just going to go briefly over it, some of the things here when it comes to it. But sort of in the book, it is implied that whenever you feel a sort of attraction to someone, as in the case of Marin, she sort of wants to eat them. And so this causes yet another instance where Marin and her father have to start over again. They have to get out of here. They have to erase any trace of them and just make sure that they are free. However, the father this time is tired. He doesn't want to keep running, and so this is one of the reasons we see that he just abandons Marin and tells her, "You're on your own now. Try to figure it out. I can't do this no more. I'm done." So he doesn't leave her completely empty-handed. He leaves some audio notes and everything talking about her childhood, her mother, things like that. And so this causes Marin to try and go and find her mother, who she doesn't really know much of at all, if anything, and she is going to embark on this cross journey through the United States to find out where she is, what she's been up to, and what happened exactly. Along this journey, however, right at the beginning, she meets yet another cannibal named Sully. Sully is honestly one of the creepiest people on like movies 2022 or of all time. They just give you that ick, that vibe right at the beginning, and you can just tell they're up to no good. However, right at the beginning, he decides to take Marin under his wing. He decides to feed her. He tells her about how he smelled her, how he's been doing this for a while, has met other cannibals as well. So there's a bigger world of cannibals out there, and he takes her to go and dine on this woman who just recently passed away, and he says that he didn't kill her or anything. He just found her dead, and that's pretty much how he sort of goes about his eating, is finding people like this, or who knows, maybe he does do the killing because he does hold some pretty big weapons as well. But you know, this is Sully right now. He has a little hat, so we're just going to take his word. That's what Marin says in her head probably. But by the morning, she's like, "I'm gone. I'm not dealing with this guy no more." So as she ventures out ahead, Sully's kind of a little heartbroken about this as he watches her leave. But we see Sully is just there like, "All right, you do you right now." We see Marin then go out into a town where she finds a young boy named Lee, who is also a cannibal because she was able to sort of sniff him out as well, just as Sully had done for her. And so now she is basically like, I don't know. I kind of want to chill out with this guy right now, but I don't know if he'll want me around. But Lee's kind of a little bit open to it. She actually witnesses as he devours somebody as well, and she's just like, all right, let's see where this goes. They eventually decide to go together to find Marin's mother, and throughout all of this, they encounter some very weird people. Even David Gordon Green is in this, who is the director of Halloween Ends, in a very creepy role, I will say. And I was just like, what is this? We also have Michael Stuhlbarg here returning to play yet another role with Luca Guadagnino and Timothy Chalamet. A very different role, I will add, from Call Me by Your Name, where here he is this very creepy, like outsider, wanderer, whatever you want to call them. And him and David Gordon Green's character are sort of like talking to Marin and Lee out in the woods. They're talking about how David Gordon Green's character is like a newbie, but he wants to be a cannibal of sorts, whereas Michael is already a cannibal, and he talks about how you don't become a true cannibal until you eat somebody, bones and all. There you go. You understood that reference, the movie name. Well, bones and all really does mean that they eat the person, bones and all, and this is actually the name of the book as well as the movie. And so basically in the book, Marin does consume people, bones and all. In the movie, that is different, where she does not consume people, bones and all, and she kind of sees that as something that's false and doesn't really happen, and she's kind of a little like taken aback by that, and that's where she starts getting this ick and this feeling that these people might not be the right people to be hanging around, and she sort of signals to Lee like, we gotta go. They eventually do go, and it looks like, yeah, Michael and David were not having the best interest for them, and they were probably going to do something. They're on their way out, and eventually they are tipped off to where Marin's grandmother is, and when she goes visits the grandmother tells her that her mother's dead, but after some more talking to and sort of trying to get to the root of it all, the grandmother's like, no, she's alive, yeah, but she is better off to have been dead right now because of everything that's happened with her. You can go visit her if you want, but I don't want nothing to do with this, or you just get out of my house. We see that the mother is now institutionalized, and there she is, and she has actually eaten some of her limbs off as well due to her cannibalistic urges. And when Marin tries to speak to her or any of that, she just goes out on the attack, and this leaves Marin a little distraught about what she has just seen, and she goes back to Lee, but eventually she's just like, I don't know anything anymore, like I'm tired of all of this, I just want to leave, and she does leave Lee behind. Some time passes, and then we eventually see Marin come back to Lee. We know more of Lee's story as well. We just knew that he had a sister, and he actually has, and the only good relationship Lee has besides Marin is just with his sister. And so we see Marin come back and try to rekindle things with Lee. We find out more about Lee's life as well, what happened to his father. So we find out that Lee's father was an abusive person, and this is actually the first person that Lee did consume. And we also learn more about how he feels about this whole thing and what with his sister and all of that. And he's just trying to find a right place in the world for himself. But at the end of the day, he just feels like we're cannibals. This is who we are. We either, as he tells Marin, eat or don't eat. We see that he is in a very conflicted spot, and he just doesn't know where he belongs in the world at all, and he just wants to sort of be happy, but he doesn't know exactly how that's to be done, especially with everything that's gone on in his life. And I think a lot of this conflict we can also see in Marin, who also feels the same way, as we see how she feels about when you have to kill in order to consume, and the same thing that happened when the random person that Lee had picked up at the fair turned out to have actually had a family, and she sort of feels this conflicting thing in her about, what am I doing? I'm just like killing people just to feed. I can sort of try to suppress this, and she tries to tell this also to Lee, let's just try to be like regular people, let's try to live and do things right and all of that. And then that's what we see happen as they try to sort of navigate life as regular people, as they say. Eventually, however, the plans are interrupted when Sully does in fact return, and so Sully had returned back after Marin saw her mother and everything, telling her that he had been following her, sort of being a stalker of sorts, and wants her to come with him. She kind of rejects him, and she's just like, I don't want anything to do with anybody, I'm just trying to figure my own things out right now, just let me be, and that's it. And she goes on to do her things, but then eventually we saw her come back to Lee, so we can kind of assume that Sully is still following her, and that's how he was able to come back into her life when her and Lee were trying to live this regular life. Now he's more on the offensive, and he is attacking Marin. This is when Lee steps in, and he's trying to kill him with a bag over his head. However, Sully does have a knife and stabs Lee. They eventually do, both of them, however, get the best of Sully and kill Sully, but also Lee is dying now. And with his dying breath, he tells Marin to consume him, and just do that. So we then see Marin lick the blood of Lee, and then eventually a clean, empty apartment, and that's your movie. By the end of it, we can assume that Marin has consumed Lee, and it is probably bones and all, as the apartment is clean, nothing left, no traces, all of that. And just a great movie overall. This is a hard-hitting movie that lingers with you, and I kind of put it on like the list with like Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, movies that sort of are this good, but at the end of the day, when you really think about them, it kind of makes you feel a little darker about things inside. And it's just a very strong emotional movie that does that, because it is a movie about love, about accepting, about feeling like an outsider, about just everything in the world. And at the end of the day, you see that Marin is still as alone in the world as ever, even though she probably grew from all of this. Everybody's pretty much gone from her life at this point, so I think it really leaves off on a dark note as well. And I think the whole thing about trauma as well is a very prominent thing that you see throughout the movie, because Marin comes from this trauma about her mother, her father, the urges she has, as well as Lee from his home life. And you just start to really see these two characters are so broken, try to sort of find some sort of stability with one another, but at the end of the day, both are so broken that they can't form this stability together at all. And as I said, it is different from the book, where Marin has only eaten everybody that she's eaten, bones and all. And in this movie, she's kind of like, nah, I'm not going to do that right now because it doesn't sound right. But we probably do see her eat Lee's character, bones and all. And also the whole thing about wanting to eat people that she's closest to because she feels this bond of sorts. It's not said in the movie, but we kind of see it happen at certain times when we see Marin in the beginning sort of try to eat that girl that she was having a sleepover with, and sort of it would make sense why she would want to eat Lee, even though she was kind of like, nah, I'm not gonna do this at the beginning, but eventually probably that urge of that love that she felt for Lee would have her consume him. So I think that that is definitely something that Lee also understood, maybe having that feeling as well as wanting to consume Marin at some point when he ever met her, all of that. And we definitely see that happen when he tells her, just eat me because this is something I know you want, because it's something I would have wanted as well. And I think that is definitely a very tragic story in itself, and one that definitely hits you harder once you watch that ending, thinking about that as well. And overall, like I said, Luca Guadagnino, Taylor Russell, and Timothée Chalamet definitely delivered here on a strong, strong note. And this is definitely one of the top 5 movies, in my opinion, of 2022. I can't wait to see what other people think. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on Bones and All and its ending. And if you've read the book, let me know your thoughts and opinions on the differences in the books and the movie. We will do a video talking about that this week, so stay tuned for that. But as always, that is going to do it for me. We are on the road to 30,000 subscribers. We will have more Bones and All videos talking about the themes and all of that as well, and some of the scenes as well that I do want to go further into, just as I will with the menu as well. So anyways, make sure you are subscribed, notification bell on, 30,000 subscribers. Let's get to it. I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.